Good morning and welcome to NASA TV and the International Space Station Flight Control Room, where we are today observing the arrival of the HTV-3 Kunitori Japanese vehicle, which launched last Friday from Tanegashima Space Center in southern Japan and is now making its way to the International Space Station to be grappled by the space station's robotic arm and berthed to its Earth-facing port of the Harmony node. Here in the International Space Station Flight Control Room today, we have Flight Director David Korth overseeing the approach of the vehicle, which is now about 250 meters away and moving in. That's about 820 feet from the International Space Station, and he's helped here by Capcom Katie Coleman, who's been talking with the crew and helping them move through their procedures as they get ready for its arrival. On board the International Space Station, of course, we have Commander Gennady Padalka and flight engineers Sergei Revin, Joe Akaba, Sonny Williams, Yuri Malenchenko, and Aki Hoshide. Williams, Hoshide, and Akaba are going to be the main crew members involved in the actual capture of the HTV-3 and installation of it on the Harmony node.
Camera 7.
And they'll be using the space station's robotic arm, the Canadarm2, for that.
Size is about the same as the outline, a little maybe small, like before. The white strobe position and the white strobe is about eighth of the vehicle length forward of the strobe tracker circle. The strobe tracker position is about a third aft with respect to the crew abort corridor center. How copy?
Copy all, Aki.
A view here from the International Space Station of what Hoshide is seeing as he monitors the arrival of the HTV-3.
Probe is within the crew abort corridor. The vehicle size, it's hard to tell since it's really dark. And the white strobe position is about 2 HTV width port of the strobe tracker circle, and the strobe tracker circle, or sorry, the strobe tracker position is about fourth HTV length aft from the crew abort corridor center. How copy?
Aki, we copy all, and it sounds like what we expect, but we'll be verifying.
Copy that.
That again was Flight Engineer Aki Hoshide going over his observations as the HTV-3 Kunitori vehicle approaches the International Space Station. Just a few minutes before we started commentary today at about 5:58 a.m. Central Time, the team here on the ground gave the crew the go to let the HTV move in from the 250-meter distance that it had been held at for just a bit, and begin approaching to within 30 meters, which is about 100 feet of the International Space Station. So that is the situation that the crew is in now. The HTV has been performing well with one exception. Its backup reaction control system jets are not working. However, that's not expected to have any impact on the crew's operations today, as the primary jets are working just fine. View here of flight controllers in the Scuba Space Center flight control room, where they, of course, are also watching over the operations today and looking forward to the arrival of the Japanese cargo vehicle at the International Space Station. This is the third HTV, or H2 transfer vehicle, which is what that stands for. Again, it's called the Konatori vehicle. Konatori, of course, meaning white stork in Japanese. The HTV itself is about the size of a school bus, 33 feet long and 13 feet wide, and it's carrying up a great deal of cargo for the International Space Station. It actually has two different types of cargo that it can deliver, pressurized and unpressurized, which is basically cargo meant to go inside the space station and cargo meant for the exterior of the space station. In this case, the Japanese Kibo Lab porch or external facility. Some of the things that the HTV will be delivering today include a remote-controlled Earth-observing camera called iServe, which is going to be used to gather imagery of the Earth for disaster analysis and environmental studies. And also, let's see, Japanese exploration module small satellite orbital deployer, which will be used to jettison 5 nanosatellites into orbit, and an aquatic habitat experiment, as well as a catalytic reactor for the station's water recycling system. In addition to that, on the inside, there should also be some care packages for the crew. And on the outside, for the external cargo, unpressurized cargo, there is also the Japanese multi-mission consolidated equipment and NASA communications, navigation, and networking reconfigurable test bed. HTV-3 is continuing to move in from the 250-meter point, now reported here on the ground to be about 110 meters away from the International Space Station, which is about 360 feet. Again, once it gets within range, the crew on board the station is going to be using the space station's Canadarm2, a 58-foot long robotic arm, to basically catch it and move it in for a docking on the Harmony node's Earth-facing port. You can see how that will look in this graphic. Although operations are going smoothly this morning, they are running just a bit behind, and although the capture was of the HTV-3 was scheduled to be taking place around 7:04 a.m. Central Time, it's going to be about 15 minutes later than that and should take place around 7:20 a.m. Central Time. Again, we now expect the grapple to occur at 7:20 a.m. Central Time.
Bravo. At 100 meters. Right now, the nav range is less than 90. It's about 89. For camera 7, white strobe is within the crew abort corridor. Vehicle size is a little smaller than the vehicle outline. White strobe position is about the same as the strobe tracker circle. It's a little, just a tad on the starboard side. Strobe tracker position is about a third aft of the crew abort corridor center and a tad port side from the center line. How copy?
Aki, we copy all.
And for camera 3, white strobe is within the crew abort corridor limit. Vehicle size is a little hard to see, but it's about the same as the vehicle outline. White strobe position is about one vehicle width, the port side of the strobe tracker circle. And the strobe tracker position is about maybe a quarter to an eighth of the HTV length aft of the crew abort corridor center and tad to the starboard side from the center line. How copy?
And Aki, VVO copies all. It sounds like expected performance. They are happy.
We're happy when Jerry's happy.
Flight Engineer Aki Hoshide there talking with Capcom Katie Coleman, who of course has done this before. She was at the space station.
Time, if you're ready to copy.
Jerry's with me and we're ready to copy.
We left 250 meters a little later than we were planning, so we're just a tiny bit behind. So the new capture time would be 12:20.
Copy 12:20 for the new capture time. Thanks.
Again, Coleman reporting there the new expected grapple time for the HTV-3, which is an hour and 6 minutes away now, expected to take place at 7:20 a.m. Central Time. As I was saying, Coleman's a good choice for Capcom for this operation, as she's done it before from space. She was at the International Space Station for the arrival of the previous HTV vehicle and has been at the robotic console that Hoshide and Joe Akaba and Sonny Williams will be working from today. I've been hearing Hoshide go through a checklist of parameters that he checks with the team here on the ground as the HTV continues to approach the space station. It's a view of his robotics console inside the the cupola on the International Space Station. It's a window extension of the Tranquility node at this station that allows the robotic operators a good view of the work they'll be doing today. Reported that it was the HTV was now about 89 meters and moving in, which brings it within the 300 feet range to the International Space Station. And it's moving to a point 30 meters away, which is just under 100 feet. live view here from the cameras on the exterior of the International Space Station. Getting a good view of the HTV, now looming much larger in the station's windows than it was yesterday. The crew have been monitoring its approach since before 5 a.m. Central Time, and again are expecting to be able to grab onto it with the space station's Canadarm2 by 7:20 a.m. At the moment, they are moving toward a spot 30 meters away from the International Space Station. That's a little less than 100 feet. It's going to hold at that point for about 20 minutes before it gets the go to move into the capture position, which is about 40 feet away from the space station. about a minute and a half away now from the arrival of the HTV-3 at the 30-meter hold point, which is its next threshold to cross. It'll stay there for about 20 minutes before the crew will be ready to then bring it in close enough for capture. Capture again is a little bit later than originally planned. We now expect it at 7:20 a.m. Central Time. But everything is progressing smoothly towards that point. The HTV-3 can deliver up to 6 tons of cargo and supplies to the station, and is today carrying about 3.5 tons. Some of the cargo that it will be delivering include a remote-controlled Earth-observing camera called iServe that's going to be used to gather imagery of the Earth for disaster analysis and environmental studies. Also, a Japanese exploration module small satellite orbital deployer, which will be used to jettison 5 nanosatellites into orbit, and an aquatic habitat experiment that can accommodate small fish for up to 90 days for aquatic organism experiments. In addition, there's also a catalytic reactor for the station's water recycling system and a cooling water recirculation pump for the Japanese systems on board. That's in the pressurized section of the cargo hold. In the unpressurized section, there's also a Japanese multi-mission consolidated experiment and NASA's communications, navigation, and networking reconfigurable testbed. Those are in the unpressurized section, which will be again being unloaded on August 6th. For the pressurized section, the crew will be able to get into it much more quickly. They'll be floating into the cargo vehicle for the first time around 6:20 a.m. Saturday. And then we'll be able to begin unloading it. And all the HTV will stay for several weeks and scheduled to leave in September after it has been completely unloaded and then filled back up with trash and supplies that are no longer needed at the station so that they can be allowed to burn up in the Earth's atmosphere.
Station Houston, HTV.
Ed.
We are ready for step 8 and 102. HTV is at 30 meters in the hold.
Copy that. Step 8 in work.
Capcom Katie Coleman there confirming to Flight Engineer Aki Hoshide that HTV-3 has reached the 30-meter hold point. That brings it to a point just a little less than 100 feet away from the International Space Station, and it'll stay here for about 20 minutes while the crew performs a few more monitoring tests, and then we'll be getting the hold to begin approaching from that 30-meter spot and getting ready for actual capture using the space station's robotic arm. After this 20-minute hold at the 30-meter distance, it'll take it another 20 minutes to get into place for the actual capture. Again, capture is running about 15 minutes late, and we are now expecting that to occur at 7:20 a.m. Central Time.
Houston Station on 1 for HTV. Step 8 is complete. We verified Vivian mode, submode, and nav range is 31.6. Prox is 42.85. And we'll leave the strobe lights on ON for now. How copy?
We copy all, Aki.
During this 20-minute hold, the crew who is going to be in charge of bringing the HTV-3 in for capture have a few steps that they go through, getting the video set up for the capture, and then also performing one final review of the procedure they'll be using.
Confirm. Can we tilt camera 7 now?
And Aki, if you're talking about setting that up for step 3, the answer is yes.
Copy that. That's in work.
Another look here over the crew's shoulder at the view they're seeing at their robotic workstation inside the cupola. And here is a view from the cameras on board the exterior of the International Space Station. Great view of the HTV-3, now just 30 meters, about 100 feet away from the International Space Station. And you can get a good idea of the size there. And the HTV-3 is about the size of a school bus, 33 feet long and 13 feet wide, and carrying about 3.5 tons of cargo to the space station. Again, part of the procedures that are scheduled for this 20-minute hold at the 30-meter distance is getting the cameras ready that the crew will be using to monitor the final approach of the vehicle. And that is what you were seeing there in the view inside the robotics workstation. Another step that they will be performing as they get ready for the final approach will be one final review of their procedures for the capture. Capture is going to be performed using the Canadarm2, 58-foot-long robotic arm at the International Space Station. And inside the cupola at the controls of that arm will be flight engineers Aki Hoshide and Joe Akaba with help from Sonny Williams. And then later in the day, Williams and Hoshide will work together to actually install the HTV-3 on the Earth-facing port of the Harmony node. Get a view here from the International Space Station's external cameras as station and the HTV-3 orbit about 254 miles above Canada, passing over most of Canada in the next few minutes, and will then hit the border of the U.S. above Vermont and New Hampshire, and also pass over Maine before they cross the coast of the Atlantic Ocean. This is Mission Control Houston here on the ground. The team here in the Space Station Flight Control Room have been discussing the anticipated time of capture for the HTV-3 because the schedule was running about 15 minutes behind today. The original capture time moved to about 7:20 a.m. Central Time. However, they are now discussing that, delaying that just a bit more to ensure that we have video coverage of the capture. That would mean delaying it by about 7 additional minutes, putting it at around 7:27 a.m. Central Time.
Houston Station on 1 for HTV. Crew capture briefing and review is complete. We are go for HTV approach to capture point.
Aki and Joe, we copy that you are ready. We are looking at OSTPV and our KU coverage and propose waiting about 7 extra minutes at 30 meters to then have KU at capture time. The consequence for you would be that it would be a capture during eclipse during the nighttime. We'd like to make sure you're comfortable with that. How copy? That would be a capture time of any time after 12:27. That gives us until 12:47, so about 20 minutes of capture time in the dark. How copy?
Stand by. And Houston Station on 1 for HTV. We understand the KU coverage. One item from our point of view is that the tip-lee camera gets fuzzy in the dark, so we prefer to do it in the daytime if possible.
Okay, we copy, and we will march that way.
Copy that. Houston Station on 1 for cameras.
Go ahead for cameras.
I'd like to reconfigure camera 13 just for the retreat monitoring, just to get a configure for that situation. Is that all right?
Sure, and Aki, we're happy to do that for you from the ground if you like.
I got it on the monitor, so let me just go ahead and quickly do that.
We copy and concur.
Thank you. And Houston Station on for cameras.
Go ahead for cameras.
80 for the lab starboard camera, camera 13. I think we are there where it's supposed to be for the retreat monitoring, which is pan of -50 and tilt of -38. The digitals on the monitor for the pan and tilt is jumping around quite a bit. So I just wanted to mention that to you.
Aki, I copy. We concur those are the correct settings, and we copy the jitter and the numbers. And did you do the zoom as well?
Negative. We'll get on it. And Houston zoom is set at 0.6. Camera 13.
We copy, and Jerry says he likes the view.
Copy. Going back to camera 7. And Houston, with that, we are complete with step 8, 1.102.
We copy, and we're getting ready to come in from 30 meters. We'll let you know when we're inbound. Station Houston, Conatore has begun approach from 30 meters. Your go to perform step 9 in 1102, and you are primed to issue retreat if the nav range is less than 6 meters. How copy?
Copy. Step 9 in work, and we are primed for abort if necessary.
Good copy.
Flight Engineer Aki Hoshide there, getting word from Capcom Katie Coleman that the HTV is now making its final approach, moving out of that 30-meter hold that it's been in for about 20 minutes and into place for capture. So it's moving in from about 100 feet to a point about 40 feet away from the International Space Station, where the 58-foot-long Canadarm2 will be able to reach out and grab hold of it. Capture time is now right at 30 minutes away, scheduled for 7:20 a.m. Central Time. Team here on the ground briefly discussed delaying that to give us video coverage of the actual capture, but due to lighting constraints, the crew preferred not to do that. So we're sticking with the 7 a.m. or 7:20 a.m. grapple time.
We're ready.
Your camera 7. White strobe is within the crew abort corridor limits. Vehicle size is a little smaller than the vehicle outline. White strobe position. Stand by. And the white strobe position is a little hard to see in the light, but it's about the same as the strobe tracker circle. The strobe tracker position is about 1/8 HTV length aft of the center and 1/8 HTV width to the starboard side. How copy?
VVO copies all. Sounds like a good config.
Copy. And position with the light. The strobe tracker position is less than 1/8 of the HTV length aft and about 1/4 HTV width to the starboard side. How copy?
Aki, we copy all, and if you do happen to later on get a good position of the strobe within the tracker, we'd love to hear about it. I'm looking at the times here, and just to give you some situational awareness, we expect to arrive at the capture point at 12:09, and the latest we could give you a go and still capture in the daytime is 12:18, and that's because we lose. It becomes dark at 12:28.
Okay, copy that. Thank you.
Yeah, and that accounts for that 10 minutes from the go from capture to the time you actually do it.
Copy.
Hoshidi there has been giving the ground a report on the various cameras he and his crewmates are going to be using to monitor the HTV-3's approach. Several different items that he checks on each camera several times over the course of the vehicle's approach, including the size of the vehicle as it's approaching and various strobe lights and tracker positions. And in addition, you heard Coleman there reporting that as the HTV moves in on its final approach, it should be at the capture point at 7:09 a.m. Central Time. Again, capture is actually scheduled for 7:20 a.m. Central Time, which is now 25 minutes away. Good view here of the International Space Station with the Canadarm2 stretched out and ready to grab hold of the Kounotori HTV-3 as it moves ever closer to the International Space Station. It's getting close now to wrapping up its week-long journey from Tanegashima Space Center in southern Japan. It launched from there on July 20th and has been making its way to the space station since. It's now moving from that 30-meter point that it had been held out, a little bit less than 100 feet away from the International Space Station, into a point about 40 feet away from the space station, which puts it well within reach of the 58-foot-long Canadarm2 that flight engineer Aki Hoshide will be using to capture it with help from flight engineers Joe Akaba and Sonny Williams. We're now 20 minutes away from the capture and about 11 minutes away from the arrival at the capture point. Again, that's about 40 feet away from the space station.
Station Houston for cameras.
Go for cameras.
So, Aki, we need to go back to the pan and tilt values that you've got in step 3.1 in order to evaluate the capture volume. So those that capture volume overlay is only valid at those pan and tilts.
Okay, copy.
You could just make out in this view the grapple pin that is on the left-hand side of the HTV there. It's about the size of your arm and is what the space station's robotic arm grabs onto. You could also see that it's getting very close now to the robotic arm, but still a few minutes away from its arrival at the capture point. Again, we're heading for a 7:20 a.m. Central Time grapple today.
Houston Station for cameras. We adjusted camera 7 and 3. Let us know if you need some more tweaks.
From our perspective, those look like good settings, Aki.
Copy, thanks.
View here from the camera on the end of the space station's robotic arm. That again is what Hoshide and his crewmates are going to be using to grab onto the HTV-3. You can see the HTV looming here in the middle of the screen as it moves ever closer and into position for today's capture at 7:20 a.m. Central Time.
Station Houston, HTV.
Go for HTV.
HTV is at the capture point. You are go to perform CP hold confirmation. That's step 10 in 102. It looks beautiful from here.
Copy. Step 10 in 1.102. And Katie, you might see this on the tip view, but it looks like the grapple fixture is a little off. Just to let you know.
Houston copies.
Capcom, Katie Coleman there confirming for the crew that the HTV has now arrived at the capture point. You can see it's within range here of the space station's robotic arm. Flight Engineer Joe Acaba is going to be at the controls of the robotic arm for today's capture, which should actually take place in about 10 minutes now at 7:20 a.m. Central Time. You can see in this view from the robotic arm's camera on the grapple fixture on the end of it, the prong that the arm will be grabbing hold of on the HTV. That'll be used to guide it in for installation on the Earth-facing
camera
port of the Harmony node later this morning.
Go to change the pan tilt settings on the cameras.
Okay, I'm checking.
And we have verified that. Copy. And we have verified that the grapple fixture is stable within the capture volume.
Space Station and HTV are currently out of range of video downlink here, and will be out for a minute or so, and then we should get just a couple of minutes back, but we do not expect to have video at the actual grapple time. Again, that's coming up at 7:20 a.m. Central Time, just 8 minutes away now.
Station Houston for Aki and Joe. We'd like to keep these pan and tilt angles. They're necessary to be able to verify that you really are in the capture volume until you get to the part of step 4 where you are verifying that you're set for free drift.
Okay, copy. And with that, step 10 is complete. We have confirmed that we are at capture point hold, and the grapple fixture is within the capture volume on both camera views.
We
Hoshide.
and concur.
Hoshide there confirming that the Kunitori 3 or HTV-3 is at the capture point, ready for the space station's robotic arm to grab onto it, and within reach of the robotic arm's grapple fixture. Team here on the ground is taking a go-no-go call, just making sure everything is indeed ready for the capture, which is scheduled for 7:20 a.m. Central Time. And the team here on the ground in the International Space Station Flight Control Room Gave the final go for capture. Again, that should be about 5 minutes away now.
Station Houston, HTV. So FRGF SEP is enabled. Your go to perform the HTTP command availability check. That's the first part of step 11 in 102.
Copy step 11. We have verified HCP LED status. And we're happy with the lighting conditions right now for capture. So with that, capture prep confirmed and crew is ready for HTV capture.
Copy. Stand by for your go. Station Houston, we performed our poll for capture. You are go.
And as expected, the space station and HTV have moved out of video downlink range and also communication range for a few minutes, just as Coleman was getting ready to give them the go for capture. It'll be a few minutes before we get that video downlink back. But
we performed our poll for capture. We are go for HTV capture. You are go for step 4 in 1.110, and begin monitoring the back away cue card.
Copy. Go for capture. Go for step 4 in 1.110. In work.
As you heard, back in range of communication with the station, and Coleman gave them that go for capture. A few steps to go through before they actually perform the capture, including inhibiting the space station's thrusters and putting the HTV in free drift, but that should be coming up in the next few minutes. Again, we don't expect to have a video view of this capture because the schedule is running a bit behind today, but we should be able to follow along as the crew lets us know what they're doing on orbit. Capture again should be taking place around 7:20 a.m. Central Time. View here inside the Scuba flight control room in Scuba, Japan, where the HTV team is monitoring
And Houston
operations as well.
First before doing 4.2.
Houston copies. We're watching.
Once again, Flight Engineer Joe Acaba is at the controls of the Canadarm2 today and getting ready to reach in and grab hold of the HTV-3, waiting for the HTV-3 to be put into free drift. Until that point, he'll stay about 5 feet away from the grapple fixture on the vehicle before he moves in to grab onto it and complete capture. Team here on the ground reports that the vehicle is in free drift and the arm is in motion, moving into capture. Team on the ground reporting that we're about 1.5 meters away now from grappling the HTV-3. That's about 5 feet. Seeing applause there from Japan as the team here on the ground confirms that the crew did capture the HTV-3. That took place at 7:23 a.m. Central Time. Again, the team here on the ground has confirmed that the Kunitori 3, or White Stork, has been captured by the space station's Canadarm2 with Joe Acaba at the controls. As the station and HTV-3 were 253 miles above the southern Indian Ocean.
And Houston and Tacoma from station on Space Ground 1. HTV capture is complete. Go for HTV post-capture reconfig. Congratulations to all the teams in Houston and Tacoma. 日本の皆さん、日本の技術と
Aki, Houston copies. Great
Congratulations to the ground there from Flight Engineer Anki Hoshide, who of course has been playing a big part in today's activities as the HTV was captured. Capcom Katie Coleman went to return the congratulations, but the station moved into a bad communication point.
Congratulations on a great capture, and we'd like to welcome Konotori aboard.
And station, this is Tsukuba. おめでとうございます。Aki-san, you were cut off while you were talking in Japanese, so we appreciate if you could repeat in Japanese.
Absolutely. 日本の皆さん、日本の技術と誇りの詰まったコウノトリが到着しました。宇宙ステーションの窓から見えるコウノトリは非常に綺麗です。関係者の皆さんの努力に、敬意を表したいと思います。おめでとうございます。
星出さんありがとうございます。今はビデオが降りてきてないので、本当に星出さんがキャプチャーしたかどうかは、まだわからないんですけれども、キャプチャーポイントにあったコウノトリは非常に美しく見応えのあるキャプチャーでした。おめでとうございます。ありがとうございました。
And Houston Station on 1, or we go for step 4.5?
Affirmative, Aki. You are go for 4.5.
That's in work.
Live view here of the HTV-3 or Konotori 3. Again, that's a Japanese word for white stork, which has now arrived at the International Space Station. You can see it grappled there by the space station's robotic arm, Canadarm2. It arrived at 7:23 when it was captured 253 miles above the southern Indian Ocean.
station, Houston, for robotics.
Ready, Houston.
You are go for the maneuver to the expected capture position. That's step 5 in 1.110.
Copy. Step 5 and what? Houston Station, Space 1 for robotic. Step 5 of 1.110 is complete.
We copy, Aki. Nice work, you and Joe and Sunny today. Robo is ready to pick up from here, and we're expecting that we'll be picking up on the timeline kind of on time, depending on the lighting that he finds for PCBM inspection.
Okay, copy that. Enjoy it, Jason.
You've got one happy Robo in this room, I'll tell you that, Aki and Joe. Thanks very much. Really nice work today, all three of you.
You dancing?
Station, Houston.
Good.
Hey,
This is Mission Control Houston. You heard there just a moment ago,
Orbit team,
Capcom.
Orbit 2. But David Korth and his team would like to just thank you all three of you, Aki, Sunny, and Joe, for really nice work today. I think we couldn't have had a better day, and we're looking forward to a great HTV mission. And we'll hand you over to Ed Van Cise and Shel Lindgren.
Hey, likewise.